Hi, Student Success. Welcome to week 1 of the semester. So hopefully you have already viewed my welcome video. If you have not, I did send a link in your second welcome email that I sent the week prior to the semester starting. It is also found if you go to the Start Here section and scroll down. Here is my welcome video. It walks you through just kind of navigating the course so that hopefully you can feel a little bit more comfortable with everything. So after you have viewed that video and just make sure that you're a little bit more familiar with Blackboard in general, I would recommend going ahead and watching this video and jumping into week 1. So as a reminder from the welcome video, under the Start Here section, this is where you're probably going to go to maybe the first couple weeks for reminders to check things, and then you'll begin to use it less and less as the semester progresses. Now remember, this is an 8-week course, which means we do have a lot going on in each week, a lot of assignments. The lectures will be a little bit longer because I'm trying to capture usually two chapters at a time. All right, so in this Start Here section, we have again, the welcome, the East Arc State video tour. Here's where you can find your syllabus if you wanted to bring it up and print it out or just be able to check back in with it. And there is a link to our textbook as well as other resources and just pieces of information for our course. So again, once you start to feel more comfortable with the course, you may not even need to check back in this section very often at all. Don't forget the other resources over here, course messages and announcements. Anything I send in one, I'll send in the other unless it's an individual course message. Your calendar helps you keep track of everything that's coming up. And then your grades allow you to check your progress at any point during the semester. And these again are different links to resources on campus. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and click into the lessons area. Here's another link to your textbook access, Student Lounge where you can introduce yourself, and the Muddy Point where you can ask a question. Please remember that before you can even access week 1, so if you're watching this video and you have not taken the syllabus quiz, you'll need to take that syllabus quiz first. It's 10 questions, like true, false, multiple choice setup, where it's just going to ask you questions about the course in which you can get the answers from the syllabus, which was back here under the Start Here section. So before you can open up and work in week 1, you have to take this and get 100%. So please make sure you do that because you're not going to see week 1 open until that happens. The student services assignment, I said in my welcome video, I would touch on this again in week 1. I'm going to go ahead and do that now. This is due by the end of week 8. So 8-week session. This is due by the end of week 8. If you click in here and it tells you, this is a 10-point assignment, you are attending a workshop this semester. All of the workshops are online, so it's not something you have to come to campus. And even in a normal semester, they would offer a lot of these online anyway for our online students because some of you are out of state or maybe you're still a high school student, whatever the case is, so that you can have access to these workshops. So you have to sign up for a workshop or a Leadership Academy event. And how you do that, I'm going to go ahead and show you because they have the workshops all loaded in there now. You're going to go to My Stark State. You're going to go to Academic Support. I'm going to scroll down where it says Student Success Workshops. All right, and here you go, a whole list of all of these courses broken down by month and then even broken down further by like category. So I would really recommend doing this now, looking at this now, because you only have until October, mid-October when our 8-week session course ends. So kind of look through and see, do any of these catch your attention? So maybe you need a little bit more brushing up on different types of sources. Maybe you need to really be able to pick out like fake news, or you need to talk about Google, different search techniques in Google, whatever it might be. You can see that they have offerings different times of the day. Some of them are in the evening, which is really nice for those of you who might be working or going to school or have things in the early afternoon. And then there are some in the morning and afternoon as well. So when you go and you find one that you like, you're going to click register, and it's going to take you to Handshake, which is how all of this is kind of tracked. And it's going to say, okay, here's what you're signing up for. If you already have a Handshake account, maybe this is your second semester, or maybe you already created it, you'll just go to log in. If not, you'll hit log in and it'll say no account, sign up here. So you'll go to the sign up and then you'll enter your Stark State email address, which for you all, I know it says .edu, students is .net. That's okay. It's not gonna like boot you out. So you'll enter your email address and then hit next and it'll go through the whole sign-up process. And this is how you're going to register for those student workshop. You will also use Handshake, maybe, possibly, hopefully, as you progress with the college for different interview and resume and career services and job search things. So it'll be helpful for you along the way. So that is your student workshop assignment. Whenever you are done, you will get like a receipt or a certificate, and that is what you are going to submit. So if you don't like one of those workshops, there are Student Leadership Academy sessions, and that's something different, but it'll still count for this particular assignment. So Student Leadership Academy is done through a different office on campus, and this is like a series of, you can see it said it doesn't start till 13th of September. It's a series of different workshops, so it still applies for this assignment. Whenever you're done, again, you'll get that certificate. You'll click in here, and this is how you will submit a lot of work through like what we call like a Dropbox. You'll find down here, it'll say browse local files. You'll find, whatever file it is. So it'll say like workshop assignment. I'm just going to click a random file, hit open. You'll see that it's attached there, and you'll hit submit, and that's how I will be able to see it. Okay, so that's the workshop assignment. I will talk about that several more times throughout the semester, but I wanted to remind you now. All right, let's go ahead and get into week 1. So again, my video for this week is usually a little bit longer because I do walk you through how the weeks are set up, and then there are 2 chapters to talk about. So all weeks are set up in a very similar fashion. It'll have a quick overview, the things that you're going to read and review, a list of assignments that you'll be completing, kind of a reminder about when they're due, and then what's coming up. Underneath, you'll have the materials that you need to successfully complete the week, and then the actual assignments that you have to submit. So this week you can see we're in chapter 1 and 2. So obviously starting off at the beginning of the text, talking about college experience and staying motivated. So in the materials folder then, there's a real quick, here's everything that you're going to be kind of looking through again. And then there's a direct link to your textbook. So the link opens right up to your chapter 1 textbook. Just like when you click on chapter 2, it opens up right to chapter 2, and you can navigate in there. And then we also have additional resources. So slides, if you click on that, you will see that there are, slides. Now this is 47 slides. I'm not going to go through all these. I'm not going to talk about all 47 slides. I'm just going to kind of breeze through this one because it's really lengthy. And then I'll kind of also just flip through the text and talk about that. And then chapter 2 has 2 sets of slides. I'll go through these. It's only 11 slides there and 5 slides here. So I will talk about those in conjunction with chapter 2 content right there as well. And then once I have gone through here, I will go back to the assignments and walk you through the assignments. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at chapter 1. So chapter 1 is all about kind of just getting to know the college experience. And so this goes through the learning objectives, all the things you're going to learn in this particular chapter. And it's very in-depth here. All right, so here's what I recommend everyone kind of do. Just think about your college experience, whether you are a CCP student, you're brand, fresh out of high school, you're a returning student, or maybe you've been out of college for a while. How long do you think your degree is going to take? How many courses are you going to take? What's going to be struggles? What's going to be maybe obstacles for you? So just kind of thinking ahead through all of those, because it really can start getting you set up. You also want to consider kind of your values and thinking what matters to you and prioritizing those things. The chapter also talks about thinking ahead to your career, your major. Now, a lot of you are already decided, and that's great. Some people are not decided at this point. Maybe you just are kind of in like a career community because you think you want to do something in the health field, but you're not quite sure yet. Well, that's okay. This is what the first couple of semesters are for, so that you are taking these, this is called like a prereq. You're taking your prerequisite courses, your basic courses, your gen eds that everyone has to take, and then you start going into your major anyway. So this is a time where you can kind of figure it out while you're taking these type of courses. We have a lot of resources on campus, and we will talk about them throughout the semester as well that'll help you make these decisions, like career services. So you also want to be aware of, the differences between high school and college, especially for those students who are still in high school, because again, we have CCP students in here, or students who you just graduated just a couple months ago. And so you want to make sure that you understand the differences between high school and college, and really kind of connecting your past experience and building on it, but also understanding how things are going to look a little different in the college experience. And in this COVID world we live in, education looks different anyway. So a lot of things are looking quite different. So that's also another layer on top of everything. All right. So we also want to talk about kind of how you make sure that you are approaching your degree, having that positive attitude, keeping motivated. I always ask students at the beginning of the semester in my face-to-face classes, we always write down like our goals, our short-term and long-term goals, and talk about what motivates us, because beginning of the semester, it's usually easy to be motivated. It's exciting, it's new, you're ready to go, lots of energy. But then a few weeks in, sometimes you're already kind of like, what did I get myself into? I've got too many things going on. And so I really encourage all my students to even visually, if you need to, write down on Post-it notes, this is what I'm working for. This is what keeps me motivated, whatever it takes. When I was working on my doctoral degree, I had Post-it notes all over my house. Reminding me like, shouldn't you be writing? Shouldn't you be reading? Here is your goal. So it really kind of is literally a visual way to keep that in mind. So you also want to make sure that you're taking steps to be, managing time management. I would direct your attention if you're a traditional student, meaning you're right out of high school. If you're a returning student, you've been here a semester or two, or maybe you've been out of the atmosphere for a little bit, you can kind of look to see where you fall in. And there are different categories of students. And I encourage you, because I'm not going to spend every minute on all these slides, take a look and see what would you consider yourself? Where do you fit in? Because especially at a community college, we have so many different types of students. And so just kind of knowing the obstacles that each of those types come with is helpful as well. This talks about what it takes to be successful. We already mentioned a few of these: being motivated, positive attitude, good skills in place like note-taking, test-taking, attendance, time management. So this is going to talk about all those things that help students be successful. So I encourage you to take a look at this profile and kind of look and see, okay, I do really well with money management, but you know what? I don't do so well with some healthy habits like stress management. So kind of looking to see what can you do to start improving. This section talks about the learning cycle, 4 steps to learning. And this is something I talk about in my developmental reading courses as well. Everything usually is done in cycles. You want to do things that are going to help in the cyclical fashion, because learning is not a linear process. There's always going back and revisiting. And so this talks about these 4 steps, preparing, making sure that you are prepared. And that can mean 500 different things, honestly, but it is particular to maybe a certain class or a certain test or a situation. Prepare, absorb the information, capture it, and review it. And so we're going to talk about all of these things again throughout the semester. I always kind of approach it in a reading fashion, because 85% of what we learn in college is done through what we read. And so making sure that we set the foundation for good reading, good writing, good note-taking, that really is kind of, I think, the heart of this process, is making sure that you have that down. So another thing is knowing about your learning style. If you don't know your learning style, I would recommend just doing this on your own. It's not required or anything. vark-learn.com, and scrolling down to what is your learning preference. I don't want that. And taking this questionnaire, it goes through these scenarios, and you click to see, okay, all these things. This is what I would do in this situation. I would only click 1 or 2 for each situation. And then when you go and you hit OK, it's going to give you your results. And it'll say, look, oh, hey, you're a visual learner. And it's going to give you some strategies on how to prepare and how to make most effective use of your time, both in a work environment as well as a school environment. So if you want to do that, if you don't know your visual preference, I would recommend maybe just taking that on your own. So knowing your learning style, knowing how you can apply that and how that can be effective to you. And this goes into more depth, after you know your learning style, how can you kind of apply that and make best use of it? There's lots of tips to listening while you're in classroom, or also when you're listening to lectures online. ways to apply the scene learning style. So again, it goes into a lot of depth there. So that's why I recommend maybe taking this survey first and then kind of looking at it through that lens. Like, how can I apply what I'm doing in and out of class to be the most successful I can based on my learning preferences. Also, you want to be aware that, every instructor has their own style. So you are going to have to adapt a little bit based on, maybe one class, your anatomy and physiology class, your teacher teaches one way, and then you go to your psychology class and they teach a whole other way. So understanding that just like every student learns in different ways, every instructor teaches in different ways. And so being able to kind of adapt the best way you can as well. This talks again a little bit more about the differences between the high school and college, the classroom settings, and what's great about Stark State again is most classes, the most you'll have with you is 20, maybe 25 students. Most of my classes are really small on campus, especially now during COVID. We normally have 10 to 15 students, which is a great learning environment. You also need to know the difference between your required courses, your electives, which we will talk about a little bit more throughout the semester as well as knowing kind of the benefit as well as challenges of online courses. Obviously, you're already in an online course. And so knowing that there are obstacles, online courses are not easy. I think online courses are more challenging, to be quite honest. I teach face-to-face and I teach online. I much prefer teaching face-to-face as well as student face-to-face because online is a lot of work. You have to really explain yourself. You have to really be up on your management and self-discipline. So there's a lot more to online classes than a lot of people think. So these are some things to kind of think about. And I would also just recommend go through and make sure, hey, have I done these things? What do I need to work on? What resources do I need? We have people on campus who will help with this. Lydia Lee is a great resource on our campus. She helps students a lot with computer everything. I mean, she works with students who've never turned on a computer all the way to students who maybe need help with different spreadsheets or maybe typing faster, whatever the case might be. She normally releases a schedule of workshops that she does, and as soon as I get that, I will upload it so that if you need her, you can definitely reach out. Okay? And the rest of this kind of talks about the importance of, going to class, making sure you're aware of all the college policies and college resources, which again, back in our course, there is a link to a lot of our resources right there. So just knowing that there's resources there, and that's also the purpose of this class, is to talk to you about all these different resources and how they can help you. And then knowing kind of sometimes we have to fail before we succeed, and also just kind of working that into the process, as well as talking about the grades and being successful in your first year. So I encourage you to maybe spend a little bit more time, look at some of those slides more in depth if you wish. Also, chapter 1, whenever you take a look at the chapter, I go back real quick. So the very first page, just kind of, every chapter usually has a self-assessment if you are interested in taking that, kind of just to understand where you are as an individual, as well as it relates to whatever the concept the chapter is going over. Okay, and then talking about who are you, and this is, again, these are things we just kind of talked about in the slideshow. So I'm just going to kind of breeze through here. So knowing your plan, what are your values? And this has a little value assessment for you if you wanted to take that and just kind of understand what your values are. Thinking ahead to your major and career. Again, so a lot of what I just talked about in the slides, it just goes more in depth here. So the point of these videos is to introduce the concept, and where we would normally talk about it in class, I would encourage you to spend time and dive in a little bit more in depth in the text also. Now, saying that, I also understand that everyone's at different places in their life. Again, some of you are 16 years old, some of you are 60 years old. We are all at different places, and so take what is going to benefit you. So if there are certain sections of our text or certain sections of our slides that do not relate to you, that's okay. Skim those over, go to the parts that really kind of hone in on what you need. So again, this talks about things that we talked about in the slides. Knowing the different kind of categories of type students, this goes over, what traditional, returning, commuter. Our campus has obviously all commuter. There are no dorm rooms here. So all of you technically are commuter students unless you're taking all classes online only. first generation students, we have a program on campus called TRIO that if you are a first generation student, meaning your parents did not graduate from a 4-year institution, you are considered first generation. And statistically, that means that you may have a little bit more obstacles to get over because you don't have like that person who's been through the process, which, I mean, listen, at this point, I've gone to college 3 times, and I know by the time my young children, my oldest is only 10, by the time he gets to college, I'm not going to know what I'm doing. So, I mean, things change all the time, like financial aid and all these other processes. So someone whose parents had not graduated from college, you might even feel more like disconnected. So TRIO is a great program that helps students with that. If you're interested in that, let me know and I can send you some details. So again, that goes over the different types of students. This section talks about those learning styles and the learning cycle. So again, hopefully you didn't zone out a few minutes ago. This just goes more into depth on what we just kind of started talking about. So I encourage you again to look into these sections in detail. This talks about that VARC survey that I showed you over here. And then reading, again, some tips on reading. We will talk about reading specifically in this 8-week session, some reading tips, how to be an effective reader, not just a disengaged reader that just kind of glazes over the page. Some listening skills, obviously, if you're taking face-to-face classes or even an online class where I, like here, lecture, you know, making sure that your listening skills and things that you can do to improve your listening, visual, hands-on, and feeling. So that goes into depth about all those different things, about those different kinds of like preferences. All right. And then what is college? This goes into, again, just kind of setting you up for what to expect and the different vernacular that's used. Sometimes students come to like, I don't know what a registrar is. I don't know what an elective is. So this kind of talks a little bit about some of those things and some of the things that you're going to almost be expected to know, even though sometimes people don't always like sit down and tell you like, okay, when you take an online class, you have to not only, you know, set some time aside to attend your face-to-face classes, but set a weekly time aside for your online classes. So things that are just helpful that are not always explained, you know, when you enroll at a school. And then this last section again talks about like, how are you successful the first semester and then throughout your entire academic path. All right. So again, I always encourage you to, after I talk about kind of like the big ideas, please spend some time and like read the chapters, look at the slides a little bit more in detail. All right. Chapter 2 is about staying motivated, organized, and on track. So again, if you want to, recommend kind of assess where you are on those things. Give it a real quick self-assessment, and then what is this section going to cover? So I will talk about the slides real quickly and then kind of go through the text. So chapter 2, staying motivated in college. I already kind of touched on this, really thinking about what motivates you. Are you maybe just really intrinsically motivated? You just love learning. And so you're here because you want a career, but you also just love to learn. And so you have to really tap into those reasons that you're motivated. Maybe you're motivated because of your children or a sibling or a parent or whatever it might be. Really just keep that motivation. And again, you need to, make it like a physical reminder around you. Also setting goals. Even students, there's a longitudinal study that ran from 1979 to 1992. That is a long study that followed students. They set educational goals and they tracked them to see if they met their goals. Even the students who fell short of their goal still had high levels of like self-confidence and motivation because they had something they were working toward. So just the act of setting goals helps you get motivated. It helps you kind of fulfill some needs that you have, even if you don't necessarily meet those goals. So I would always, again, if I had you in class right now physically, I would have you write down your goals. So I encourage you to go ahead and do that now. Write down some short-term goals, some things you're going to accomplish this semester, and then some long-term goals, some things that you're going to accomplish in the next year or 2 years, whatever the case is. And keep those handy, work on those, because you can set a goal, but if you never think about it or look at it again, what was the point, right? You want to go back and you want to look and you want to adjust as needed. So you always want to make sure that your goals are SMART though. This doesn't have that acronym. I like using that. SMART goals. Right here. This is the one I kind of always happen to rely on. Are they specific? So I will use like a weight loss goal, for instance, because that's a lot of people's like, you know, New Year's resolution type goal or summer goal, whatever. So if I said I want to lose weight, great, but that's not specific. You want to say, I want to lose 10 pounds. Okay. Is it measurable? Well, yeah, measurable. 10 pounds, I can measure that. Is it attainable? Depends. Am I doing the work that is needed for that? But 10 pounds is pretty attainable based on the time that you give yourself. So that kind of comes back to that. Is it realistic? Is it time bound? If you say I want to lose 10 pounds in a week, well, obviously that's not very realistic. But if you want to lose 10 pounds in 2 months, that's more realistic. If I want to lose 10 pounds in a year, that's almost giving yourself too much time, right? So kind of you want to use this. Our textbook uses, as I said, this, which is very similar, obviously, but making sure that your goals are not just vague. I want to get good grades. Okay, that's a good goal in theory, but it's not specific. What does good mean? How can you measure that? How can you rate that? How can you adjust as needed? And it's okay to go back and adjust your goal. Maybe at the beginning of the semester, you thought you were going to get a 4.0, but as you take your bio class, you're like, ooh, I'm going to be okay with a B in this class. So I'm going to change my goal. So there are different types of goals. This goes through like short-term, intermediate, and long-term. And then process goals. So your goal is, I want to get a 3.5 GPA. Okay, there should be sub-goals underneath that. How are you going to do that? Are you going to study every day for 10 minutes? Are you going to get into a study group? Are you going to use college resources? So how are you going to reach those goals? That's the meat of it. That's the important part. And they also need to be at different levels. You want to set goals that are realistic, but also, you know, a little bit high so that they're in your grasp, not too far beyond, but they're not also kind of holding you stagnant. You're going to move forward with those goals. These are some suggestions on getting motivated if you find yourself kind of like, oh, I just don't know what to do. Break up your assignments, work on something for a little bit, take a break, set goals, reward yourself, and use resources. I can't say that enough. You all are paying for your education, which also includes all these resources on campus, Writing Center, Trio, Digital Library, all of these. You've paid for them in your tuition. Use them. They are to your benefit. Okay, so here are some more examples on how to stay motivated. You know, using a study group, positive self-talks, take breaks. So again, if you're really struggling with motivation, these are ways to kind of amp that up. And then keep tabs. See whenever you tend to lose your motivation and go back to this. How do you revive it? All right, and then the other part of chapter 2 talks about organizing your space and time. So I don't know about you all, when COVID happened, I was at home working and then also teaching my 3 children because God love my husband, he's not cut out for education. So I had to like really get a space for everyone in our home where it was academic because it wasn't going to work to do their schoolwork in their bedroom. It was too much lie down, toys, you know, that kind of thing. So you need not only time management, but also space management, making sure that you have a space that is going to be conducive. You know, I have students say, I have to fall asleep when I read. I'm like, okay, where are you reading? In my bed or my comfy chair. Well, that's why you need like a space that reinforces your academics. Okay, so all of these are kind of tips on how to choose that space somewhere in your house. Obviously, dining room table right before or after dinner is probably not going to be the best place. Dining room table maybe at 6 a.m., that could work. So finding the place and the time is going to help you with distractions. And then also along with kind of space management, you know, time management. We don't want to multitask. As humans, we multitask. It's natural, and that's okay. I can have the TV on in the background while also, you know, send a quick email that has to do with like a personal thing. That's multitasking. We don't want to multitask when it comes to academics because a lot of research, especially out of MIT, has come out saying that it's actually taxing our brain too much and we are not likely to remember what we're doing. It's going to result in lower quality work when we multitask. So you want to keep that in mind. And then again, along with time management, some students, when they come up with their schedule for the semester, they plug in their schoolwork in terms of like actually being at school, but they don't carve out time for studying or homework. So you want to make sure that you are planning ahead and getting that time management and that schedule in place along with the physical location. All right, so chapter 2, again, as I just said, this talks about time management, how to make sure that you are setting yourself up to be successful, this goes over the setting of the goals, and it gives some examples, some like little scenarios of different goal setting, and asks you to kind of think about those, set some priorities, goes over kind of that SMART goal setting again. And there's a little activity if you would like to, as I mentioned before, fill in or talk about your goals. And this is going to ask you to do like short, midterm, and long-term goals, thinking about your priorities and how to adjust your attitude. Sometimes you might need an attitude adjustment. I say that to my kids all the time. I need an attitude adjustment too sometimes. So I have to kind of check my attitude. So that's important to do before every semester, sometimes before every class. It just kind of depends on what's going on with your life. Surround yourself with positive people. That's a big thing. If you have negative people in your life, that's going to seep into your academic work as well. So this goes into a lot of ways, again, to how to be successful. This next section talks about, again, organizing your space, finding those academic spaces that are going to help you the best space and time to be able to be successful with your academics. And technology, this I talk about in the context of multitasking, making sure that obviously with an online course, you have to have access to a device, but make sure that any other devices are maybe set aside, or I have deleted certain social media apps during the semester so that if I really want to access them, I have to get on my computer so that they're not right there at my fingertips. Whatever it might take for you to kind of make sure that you're focused on what you need to be focusing on. Also, organizing your time. If you have planners, I started using this a couple weeks ago, actually, the app called Cozy for my family, because my 3 children are starting to all be involved in things. We've got baseball and swimming and scouts and baton and gymnastics. Oh, y'all, it's a headache. So Cozy really is starting to work for our family because we can kind of color code it with who needs to go where, whatever works. The key is finding something that works for you to help you manage your time and your energy as well. And this is like a little time analysis activity, thinking about where does all your time go. If you've ever thought to yourself, oh my gosh, I just don't have any time, this kind of makes you think, okay, where does my time go? How much time do I spend on each of these activities? And therefore, what can I cut out and what time do I have left over? So this talks more about, again, time management and time resources. If you struggle with this, I would really pay attention to this section, especially if you're a procrastinator. How can you avoid procrastinating? This is a habit a lot of people have and they want to break. So they want to break that habit. So I would, again, recommend spending time on that particular section. All right, so that is an overview of chapters 1 and 2. As I said, I always encourage students to go back in after they listen to the lecture or even in between and read more of the details, look more into the nitty-gritties of those particular sections. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at your assignments now. So real quick snapshot, you have 2 discussion forums this week. That won't be the case every week, but because it's this week, you have 2 discussion forums. To get 100% attendance on your discussion forums, you have to post by Wednesday at 11:55 in both. It states that down here. If you post in chapter 1 but not chapter 2, you only got half attendance. So please make sure you respond, original response in both by Wednesday. And then in both forums, you want to respond to 2 students by Sunday for the rest of those points for that assignment. And then you also have a training quiz and a college resources scavenger hunt. This right here, you will eventually do when you take your student workshop. So if you want to go ahead and sign up for Handshake now, you can, or when you register for your workshop, you can. All right, so let's go into the assignment folder. Here are the prompts for your discussion forums. So chapter 1 discussion, chapter 2 is right down here. They're going to work almost the same. Here is the prompt. Okay, it says there are 2 parts. Part 1, introduce yourself and discuss your major or certification so we can get to know you. So just say, hey, my name is Linda. I am working on a degree in, you fill in the blank. Part 2, select 4 of the 9 topics listed below and complete each of the 2 statements next to each topic you listed. Okay, so you can see there's 9 topics. You are choosing 4 of them. Okay, 4 of them. So let's say, just to make it easy, I am going to choose the first 4. I'm going to talk about attitude, values, transitioning to college, and learning process. My email is going very crazy this morning. So attitude. My most negative attitude toward college is, I'm going to fill in the blank. Here's what I'll do to be more positive. So you are completing both statements in all 4. So let's say I do values, learning style, resources, grades. Doesn't matter. Whatever 4 you want to do and fill in the blank, so to speak. It can be like a sentence with the 2 statements. 4 of the 9. How you do this is you click on Chapter 1 Discussion. You're going to hit Create Thread, and it's going to give you the prompt again, so you don't have to flip back or copy it or worry about it. So here's the prompt, and I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to put in my subject, so maybe I'll just put Chapter 1 Discussion, and then right here, put your response there. You'll hit Submit. Okay. When you go to respond to a classmate, I'm going to go to down here. When you go to respond to a classmate, you simply just click on their post and hit reply, and then you'll type right in there. When I say response to a classmate, that means a thoughtful response. That does not mean like, yes, I agree, no, okay. Not just one-word answers, like a thoughtful response, like a sentence or 2. Okay, so that's the Chapter 1 discussion. Chapter 2 is going to look, and here's like a little summary if you need like an example. Here it is down here. Chapter 2 is going to look almost identical, except for, in this one you're not introducing yourself, but you are selecting 4 of the 6 topics. So there's 6 topics. Choose 4 of them. Fill in the statements. Okay. So you are posting your original in both Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 by Wednesday, September 1st to earn week 1 100% attendance. If you miss the attendance deadline, you still get points for completing the discussion. So still complete the discussion because you can still get 10 out of 10 for completing the discussion, and you'll just get late attendance points. So please don't think, if you miss the attendance, you shouldn't do it at all. You should still post. And I'm going to be lenient this first week as well, but I want you to get in the habit of Wednesday nights posting your original response. By Sunday, you want to go in and respond to 2 classmates in each forum, so 4 responses total. Okay, those are your 2 discussion forums. And again, it goes over like, here's what a summary of a post could look like. Here are your other 2 assignments. These are due by Sunday, September 5th. They are both automatically graded assignments. So Blackboard grades these. So I do not manually go in and grade them. Rather, I go into the gradebook and I see, did you complete it? Oh, you got a 9 out of 10. So when you click on both of these, it's going to open up into like another window. And it's going to be one of these where you kind of have to it's going to talk to you a little bit. And you're going to click through. You're going to click through and look at the text. It's going to tell you all about it. And then you're going to answer questions. Okay. And then when you're all done, again, I would check your grade book and make sure, go down here where it says College Resources Entitled Training Quiz. Make sure there's a grade over there. Give it a few minutes. There's a little bit of lag. If there's a little blue circle that says in progress, come back and check it maybe an hour or 2 later and make sure that that has gone away. If it doesn't, that means you didn't complete that assignment and I can't see your work either. Okay. All right. So as a quick recap, to open up week 1, please complete the required syllabus quiz. Start taking a look at the workshops that are offered since you have to take a workshop by week 8. By Wednesday, September 1st, please post your original response in both chapters 1 and 2 discussion. And then by Sunday, September 5th, respond to 2 classmates in each forum, take your Title IX training quiz and your College Resources digital scavenger hunt, as well as spend some time in Chapter 1 and 2 materials. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. As you can see, I was already getting emails from students, and the semester hasn't even started yet. We're still 2 weeks away almost by the time I'm recording this. So please feel free to reach out, send me an email, leave me a voicemail, whatever you need. I hope you have a great first week of the semester. Until next time, bye.